resume recording, and I'm going to go ahead and get my slideshow up and running. Okay, let me share my screen. There we go. Okay, we are recording and screen sharing. Perfect. All right, so you guys know the drill. Welcome back. If you're new to Morning Brew, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. In the chat, just introduce yourself like we always do and share what you are sipping on this morning. You guys know I'm never too creative, but I have my trusty water. I actually had my first hot chocolate from Starbucks of the season today because it was cold this morning, so that was exciting. So in the chat, go ahead and just share what you're sipping on and introduce yourself. Pull that chat up here. All right. Oh, delicious cold coffee brew with pumpkin pie creamer. I'm jealous. Awesome. We got a first year family sipping on water. You and me both, Tanisha. All right, we've got iced tea. Hi, Deidre, nice to see you. All right, ladies, we're gonna jump right in. Oh, we got some others coming in our waiting room. All right, so Campus Connect 101, we're going to learn about our online program, and we're gonna dive into just navigation, features, and some helpful tips and tricks. Hi, Maggie, good morning, welcome. We just got started. So I believe all of you have been to Morning Brew before, but I just wanted to introduce myself again. My name is Krista Northcutt. There's just some fun things about me. I added a new thing here at the bottom. At the end of this training, you're actually going to receive, as part of the follow-up email, you'll receive access to a bunch of video tutorials that we actually put together to help our students and parents navigate Campus Connect. And I am the voice behind those voiceovers. So hopefully you are okay with hearing my voice because there are lots of videos and it was really fun making them. And I had a great time. We actually made them during the height of quarantine, and they've served to be very helpful even after we came back from virtual learning. So here's our agenda today. We have a small group, but we're still going to do our quick little team builder activity just to get to know our fellow brewers. And then we'll move forward with our Campus Connect deep dive. And essentially, what can you find in our online system and how to find it? And then if we do have time, since it's a small group, we'll probably just do a Q&A session versus breakout groups and make sure everybody on the call can log in and answer any questions that you may have about Campus Connect. So we're shooting for about 45 minutes of being together this morning. And like I said before, if you have any questions or anything at all, just throw them in the chat. We have a small enough group that I can just stop and answer the questions as we go. So we're going to do a quick little team building activity. And the objective of this is just to get to know your New Way community a little bit better. This is a very small group, so it'll be fun to play. But, and we actually developed this game during the pandemic. And so it's kind of an interactive Zoom game. And what you want to do is everyone is going to turn their screen off and then turn your screen on if certain statements are true about you. So it might say, turn your screen on if you're new to New Way, or turn your screen on if you live in Gilbert or something like that. And if you are uncomfortable and don't want to turn your camera on, no big deal. You can just maybe use one of the reaction buttons on the bottom. So there are reaction item emojis that you can use at the bottom of your Zoom if you would like to do that. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna turn my screen off too, so it doesn't get confusing and I can play as well. Let's see here, stop my video. Okay. All right, so our first, let me go ahead and just make sure I'm still on. Perfect. Okay. Our first sentence is, your student is in lower school. So you can go ahead and turn your camera on if your student's in lower school. Awesome. All right, so then turn your camera off, turn your camera on if your student is in upper school. That should be the rest of us, right? That's junior high and high school. All right, turn your camera off. This next one is, you're new to New Way. I know we had at least one. We've got a couple. Awesome. Next one is, you have been at New Way for 3 or more years. Go ahead and turn your camera on. There we go. Next one, you consider yourself a Campus Connect Pro. No pressure. I might be calling on you to answer some questions. Just kidding. All right, we have one more on this slide. So you learned a new skill during quarantine. So I know a lot of people picked up a new hobby or skill during the pandemic. So turn your camera on if you learned a new skill during quarantine. And I will turn my video on because I learned to sew during quarantine. Okay, so now we can turn our cameras off. We have one more slide, and this is all about what area you are living in the Valley. So turn your screen on if you live in the Mesa, Chandler, Gilbert area. Anybody in that area? That's gonna be me, so I'm gonna turn on my camera. All right, and then turn your camera on if you live in the Central or Uptown Phoenix area. And I apologize ahead of time if I don't hit all the areas. I was like raised in Gilbert, Mesa area, and so I am still getting to know all the ins and outs of Phoenix. All right, go ahead and turn your camera on if you live in the Biltmore, Arcadia area. Anybody from there? All right, next one, you live in the North Scottsdale, Desert Ridge, or Cave Creek area. Awesome. Living in the Central Scottsdale or Tempe area. Awesome. I think we might have had everybody covered. Living in the Glendale, Peoria, Avondale. Anybody there? I think we got everybody covered. I don't think anybody's from Casa Grande or Florence. If so, what a commute that is. And then our last one was just the Queen Creek, Santan area. Thank you so much for playing. Just a quick little get to know you activity. And we're gonna jump right in now to our deep dive. So I'm just gonna maneuver, stop the share for just a moment so I can maneuver my second screen here. All right, so I've got my Campus Connect up and running. Okay, so let me go back to share my screen. Here we go. Okay, so let me go back up for just a minute. There we go. Can you guys see the screen that says Campus Connect Deep Dive? You see that? Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. I'm working with 2 screens here and I have to make sure I'm showing the right one. So the majority of our program today is going to be learning how to best use our online school management tool, which we call Campus Connect. If you're new to New Way, this is going to be some great information. And even if you're not new, you're going to be able to hopefully learn at least 1 or 2 new tricks of the trade of how to navigate our online system. So these are the basics that we're going to dive into. Essentially, I'm going to read this list and then I'm going to switch over to an actual student page so that you can see what it looks like in real time. So on Campus Connect, it's going to give you an overall snapshot of your students' progress. And that includes, campus updates, events. There's a great calendar feature on Campus Connect. There's family and contact forms, there's grades, daily assignments, class schedules, there's even sports pages and club pages. And then you can also track attendance. And new this year, you'll be able to see your quarterly report documents. Many of you have accessed those already. And then as always, you'll be able to access our MAP testing scores. If you're new to New Way, your child has not taken the MAP tests yet. So once those are taken next week, the scores will be uploaded to Campus Connect, but I'll show you where to find those so that you're ready to access them in a few weeks. So let's go ahead and jump into Campus Connect. I want to show you, first of all, where to access it. At the beginning of, I believe, September, there was an email that went out to families because there was a slight switch in how to log into Campus Connect. So hopefully you got that message. We'll be sending it out again after this training just to make sure that everybody's on the same page. But essentially, we switched over to using an email address as your login. And so we'll talk about how that might affect how you log in. But if you've logged into Campus Connect after September 3rd, you're fine. Like, you did all the steps correct, so you don't have to worry about anything. So from the New Way Academy homepage, at the bottom right-hand corner, you're going to see the link that says Campus Connect for Parents, and you can go ahead and click on that, and that will take you to, it's going to log me in because I was already logged in. So I'm going to take a step back, and it's going to take you to, awesome. So it's going to take you to our Blackbaud homepage for New Way, and this is where our Campus Connect is. Again, I am not a parent, so I see the staff side of it, but you will see something very similar to this. If you have never logged in, you're going to be prompted to log in with the email address that you have on file at New Way. And so if you have any questions about which email that might be, you can just email me and I can look up on your account which email is linked to the account. And that's how our login system has changed a little bit. For students, when they access their Campus Connect, all they need to do is log in with their Gmail account. So that is typically their first and last name at newwaybulldogs.org. And don't worry about writing all of this down. It'll all be sent to you after the training. But there are some questions that I have received about logging in, since it just looks a little bit different than it has in years past. But if you're new, then it doesn't matter at all. So I'm going to go ahead and sign in. And you're going to see a admin version perspective from Campus Connect. So I have received permission from a high school student to actually show his account so that you can get a real-time view of a student account. And then I can actually show you a real-time view of a parent account as well. So give me 1 second. I'm just going to hop into his account. All right. So when your student logs into Campus Connect, this is the home page that it defaults to. You'll notice this yellow banner. These are any forms that the student or parent needs to review or fill out. A lot of these forms were sent out at the beginning of the year, but just be mindful if you have this yellow banner, it will stay up there until you complete the form. And so it's just a good reminder. I'm just going to exit out for our purposes today. So homepage, there's a lot going on. We're just going to go section by section. And then again, I'm going to show you the parent version as well. So this again is the home page. You're going to see several different sections here. I want to highlight a few. Performance is this area where you're going to see report cards, which are now our quarterly reports. So I'm not going to open it for privacy reasons, but this is where all of those documents are located. And then you can also access the same documents down here. Actually, this is a different quarterly report for a therapy. So these are the two sections, performance and files, where you will find student records, files, past report cards, and quarterly reports. It shows all the years that your student has been registered at New Way. Over on the right-hand side, you're going to notice the attendance summary. If your student first opens up their Campus Connect, they may be surprised at numbers over here, but these are by class period. So if we have 8 class periods a day, that is why sometimes these numbers are high. If you miss one day, that's immediately 8 absent excused. And so just remember that the absences are by class period. If there's any discrepancies or you are wondering why these numbers are the way that they are, the best person to contact about that is your student's homeroom teacher first, and they'll point you in the right direction to our attendance manager, Miss Alex Gibney, and she can go ahead and fill you in on the history of that and offer you any support you may need. So we've got attendance here. This conduct area we do not utilize. We have a different conduct platform called PBIS, where we use that for recording any sort of infraction, so to speak, and referrals. So you'll typically always see 0 here for the conduct. If we scroll down, this is the next most important section on the home page, and that is accessing grades at a glance. So these are all the courses that this student is registered for. Got all the classes here, and since we are early in the quarter, some classes do not have grades posted, but I will reference the classes that do have grades posted. You'll see the name of the class here. We'll take biology for example. Students can actually click on this to access the class page. There are like 3 other ways to get to the class page as well. So let's hold off on that. Let's just focus on this button right here. It is the C grade detail. So that will open up another little window here. And this is always really great to reference for students because it gives them a quick snapshot of all of their assignments so far. So as you can see, this student has completed 2 assignments in the classwork and homework category. They received extra credit on here, hence their grade is currently a 113.33%. I always recommend paying attention to the notes section. If points are deducted from an assignment or a test or a quiz, most likely the teacher will write in notes in that section, kind of explaining, you know, why the points were taken off, if the assignment was late, overdue, or if it hasn't been turned in at all and it's missing. So Zachary is doing a wonderful job in this class. There are no additional notes, but if there were, that's a great place to find some more reasoning and description on different assignments and their grades. We've got a graph here. Up at the top, you'll also notice numbers of the status of the assignments. So we've got exempt, incomplete, late, and missing. Hi, Jody, good morning. Thanks for joining us. So I'm going to close out here and kind of head down to a different class just to show you a different perspective. We've got seminar here. We can hit the grade detail. This one again has 3 assignments in 2 different categories. So this one looks a little bit different. We've got participation. We've got 2 assignments right here. So each of them is broken down by the assign date, the due date, and the points. So this is a great way to get a quick snapshot of grades and progress. There's also a quick access button here that is show. And this is how students high school students fill out their weekly grade checks. They actually go in, and junior high students go in, and they can quickly see all their grades at a glance. So Zachary's doing a wonderful job so far this quarter. Again, homepage, you're going to find access to report cards, any therapy reports, attendance. Remember the conduct we don't use on Campus Connect, and then also just a quick snapshot of grades. So like I said before, there are, I believe, 3 different ways to access class pages. And so we're going to go into Ms. Calvert's class page. Students can click down here where it says the class name, or they can actually go up to this little chalkboard image, and it's going to have all their classes laid out here. So I'm going to go ahead and go into Algebra 2 with Ms. Calvert. So these are our class pages. There's going to be 4 tabs in each of these pages. The first one is the bulletin board, and the bulletin board is for information that doesn't change throughout the year. So this is where you're going to find important links to websites that students will access for the whole year. It may even show, like, for example, right here, Ms. Calvert has a scientific calculator. She has a learning games link with the login, notes, and math space are all links that students access continuously and may not be associated with a specific assignment, but they need to have quick access to them. So that's the link section. You'll find a summary of the class, syllabus, grading rubric, how the grades are weighted, and they are weighted the same at every level. So lower school has a weighting system, junior high has their weighting system, and high school as well. At the bottom, you'll also see expectations as far as what's expected of students in each class. They're very similar across the board. You're going to find a section for being prepared, PBIS, and then attendance as well. So that's the bulletin board. Again, throw in any questions that you might have in the chat. I'd be happy to answer them as we go, since we have such a small group today. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the topics section. Topic sections you're going to find are weekly summaries and assignments that are separated by topic and are updated each week. So I will just click in here to Ms. Calvert's October 17th. You're going to notice there is a description of what the students will be doing during that week, a topic, so this is combining like terms in the distributed property, and if there are any other tools that a student might need during that week, a teacher may put them here. A teacher may also put them in the assignments tab. So your first, I guess, line of defense for finding out information is going to be going to topics and then also assignment center. And so the assignment center will tell your students exactly what they need to do for classwork and assignments. So just like with accessing classes, you can also access assignments in several different ways. So there's up here, we've got the My Day tab, which essentially takes you back home. Students can access the assignment center here, or they can access assignments per each class. Now, just based on the students that I've worked with in the past years, most of them prefer to see the assignment center so that they can see all of their assignments at one place. Like I said before, they can go into their individual classes and find assignments, but they would have to do that with each class. With the assignment center, it's a one-stop shop to find everything they need. So here is Zachary's assignment center. Like I said, it has all of the assignments for all of his classes. As you can see, they are sorted by class by default. Something that I love to work with students on is actually utilizing some of the other filters and sorting possibilities. And this actually will kind of supports EF skills as well. So it automatically defaults by class period. So you see there's 2 things for biology, there's several things here for English, and then it goes to seminar and US history. Students might want to click on the column that says due, and this will actually sort the assignments by when they're due. So as you can see, the one at the very bottom isn't due till November 1st, and the first one is due, or was due, on October 23rd. So that's a real quick tip to share with your students about visually seeing the passage of time, because sometimes it can be confusing when you have all these different dates at different times. I also encourage my students to use the filter status here. So as you can see, there are a ton of different bubbles here. So we have red bubbles, which, as you can imagine, are not good bubbles. We don't want any red bubbles. This is indicating that this assignment is overdue, which can mean one of 2 things. The student has turned it in, it just hasn't been graded yet, or the student has not turned it in. So we can just check real quick, and it shows right here that this assignment has not been turned in yet. And we'll break down how students turn in assignments. But as you can see here, the status is waiting for the student to attach a file, meaning it is not submitted yet. So if you see these red overdue buttons, it means one of 2 things. The student has turned it in already, it just hasn't been graded, or it hasn't been turned in at all. So the best place to check and way to check is just to click on the assignment name, and you'll find out right away whether it's turned in or not turned in. We love green bubbles. Green bubbles indicate that the assignment is completed or graded. And so we love seeing the green bubbles. I have a great question in the chat that says, who changes the status of the to-do, progress, and complete? It's a great question. It depends on the assignment. So I'll give you an example here. This is a participation grade. Zachary has the power to change this. It defaults to do, but since this is nothing the student actually has to do, it's something the teacher grades every week, participation, it will stay as purple until the student changes it. So if you see an action here that says change status, that means a student has the ability and needs to go in and change the status. If you don't see change status in there, that means the teacher has not enabled that feature. And once they submit the assignment, it changes automatically and it's on the teacher's end. So just look for the change status notification. It's usually on participation, just because that's something that happens every single week. And it's much easier for teachers just to have students change the status instead of them doing that for every single participation. So yes, if they have the ability to, they're supposed to change it. It doesn't affect their grade in any way though. So if Zachary left this as to do, it wouldn't change their grade at all. His teacher would put in the grade. It just might get confusing because it says he still has to do it. So all he needs to do is just change the status. So yes, if there's a change status button, that's up to the students to change the status. Should they change the status on the due date? It does not matter. Some students like to change the status right away just so they get done with it. Like I said before, it doesn't affect their grade or anything like that. And participation grades, they're completely managed by the teacher. So regardless of whether they change the status or not, the student is getting their participation grade. It's just so we want to see those green bubbles. So students should get into the habit of changing those participation grades. It doesn't change, it doesn't matter when they do it. They can do it on the due date, or they can do it right when it gets published. And it doesn't tell the teacher I have turned it in. Correct. So it's not telling the teacher they've turned it in if it's participation. If it's another grade, yes, it is telling the teacher I've turned this in and I've completed it. An example of that would be a physical piece of paper homework, like a math sheet that maybe is not submitted on Campus Connect. Students may be required to mark Campus Connect as completed after they turn in the paper. Now, if a student marks an assignment as completed and doesn't turn in the paper, teacher's going to make the connection and they'll change the status for the student. It isn't going to magically give them 100% or anything like that. So there's definitely still a checks and balances in there. So just in general, if there's participation grades, students can have ability to change the status. You actually won't find this very often in most students' Campus Connects aside from participation. Those are really great questions. Keep them coming. So green bubbles are great. It means that the assignment is completed and or graded. And you'll see the difference here. We have completed and then we have graded as well. Let me go into a graded example so you can see what that looks like. As you can see here, we have, this is a reoccurring assignment. If your student is in junior high or high school, you've probably heard of weekly reading logs in some capacity. There's a link here where the student can click and access the document. And when the student is ready to turn in and they've turned it in, this will show on the right side. It will say graded or completed, and it will have just a brief little copy of the assignment name, and it should have this little Google Drive triangle off to the right. And then Zach left a funny little comment there to his teacher, done by tonight. Okay, so we've got this is where students submit their assignments, and then teachers can go in, click this, and access it. It looks a lot different on a teacher's end, of course. So if we go back here, like I said, there's several ways to sort this. I like to teach students to always click the due button. That sorts it from soonest due to last due. As you can see, Zachary has a pretty good handle on completing different assignments by the due date. And he has something here, you know, that's due on this next weekend, his next reading log. Okay. Thank you for sharing that it's overwhelming. I promise that with just a little bit of practice, it will become less overwhelming. And we have a ton of tutorials to help with each step of the way. So I appreciate you guys hanging on with me. And I also appreciate the honesty. It's helpful. Let's go in now to, and this is the bulk of it, right? This is the bulk of what we use Campus Connect for. It is assignment management. As you can imagine, lower school students have less of a workload on Campus Connect than a high school student. So just as a reminder, this is a high school student, this is a junior. And so you're going to see a lot more assignments than a junior high or a high school or a lower school student. Okay. Let's go in now to just show you how to submit an assignment. Can you make assignments in the default when logging in? That's a great question. I'm actually going to write that down. As far as I know, we cannot, but I can definitely enlist the help of our tech director, Mr. Fuller, and just ask them if there's any sort of preference setting that we can do, just because I know that that navigation would help our younger students. I'm just going to make a note of that. So yes, as of right now, the home page is defaulted to the My Day tab, and that looks like this. There's a button right here that says Assignment Center that they can go to, or some students go in through the My Day tab. So let's pretend that I am Zachary and I need to turn something in. So I see it in my planner. I'm like, okay, I've got to turn in my, let's just pretend I need to turn in my chapter review. So a student would click on the assignment. It would give them this option. And you're going to see the big paperclip that says attach files. And once they do that, they'll be asked if they want to attach it from their actual computer, or if they wanted to attach it from Google Drive. Okay, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be Google Drive, because our students are operating on their Chromebooks where it's all web-based. So they're not actually saving things to their actual physical computer. They're just using their Google Drive. So we could access from Google Drive. I'm just going to do a quick example here. I'm actually not going to submit anything on behalf of Zachary, because that would not be good. Oh, so sorry, computer just glitched. Help if I read the directions. Let's see, it just wants me to approve here. Okay. So students can click on the Google Drive and it will pull up all of their Google Drive files. They can actually search by keywords, and this sorts by most recent. So that if they were just working on an assignment in their Google Drive, it should be one of the first ones up there. So they should be able to find it pretty easily. They would click on the assignment and click select. Again, I'm not going to attach and share, but they would attach and share. And as you can see, that would send it directly to Miss Warner, who is Zachary's teacher for this class. So I'm going to hit cancel. Once you've attached the file, students will just hit submit assignment, and it is the red button in the lower right-hand corner here. So that's how to attach a file and how to submit an assignment. If you have a lower school student, again, like I said, you may only see 1 or 2 of these assignments that students need to attach from their Google Drive a week, whereas high school, you're going to see it much more often. And again, these are skills navigating Campus Connect that teachers reinforce constantly. And so students are logging in, they're navigating it, they're manipulating it and turning in assignments constantly. And it just takes practice to get used to the system. But I understand being new, it can definitely be overwhelming. All right, we've got a question in the chat. Can you communicate with teachers about an assignment through Campus Connect? So it's a great question. So we actually don't have a teacher communication function through Campus Connect specifically, but you are able to, of course, email teachers separately through Gmail and ask questions there. That's probably the fastest way to do that, unless your student's teacher has given you a different method of communication. But yes, we want that communication line to be wide open, and we actually encourage our students to send emails and ask questions, because it can be very overwhelming, especially for new students. I would also love a chat button. I think that would be awesome. I think it would be a lot to manage, but I'll see what I can do. All right, those are great questions. Keep them coming. The rest of Campus Connect is pretty straightforward and not something that your students will really interact with daily. So the parts that they'll interact with daily are going to be the progress, which is the My Day tab that we talked about in the beginning, so they can see all their grades, and the Assignment Center. Those are the 2 big ones, right? A few other just perks of Campus Connect, as you can see here, Zachary is a part of a few different clubs. And so you're going to see like digital media club, game club, homeroom, check in and check out. And there's usually not a ton of extra information or anything they need to do for those clubs. It's just a way of tracking attendance. And so if your student is in a club or a group, it's going to show up in their group section. In the news section, you're going to see some different updates. These are updated throughout the year. And so you'll see here is the parent student handbook, and then also the 2022 calendar. And then the calendar here is actually a great function. When you first open it, it's like, oh my gosh, so much. Let me show you just a quick little thing that you can do to make it not so overwhelming. On the left-hand side, you're going to see different categories. If you, whatever your student's interested in, whatever you're interested in, you want to leave on the calendar. So I'm not interested in seeing Zachary's daily schedule. As you can see, that like cuts down all those days. I'm not really interested in the class events because there's nothing up there. I've got assignments. He's not in any sports, and group events as well. So if you just check assignments, that's a great place to get started. So this calendar will show you when assignments are assigned and when they're due. So right here, you'll see we have an assignment called Post-Secondary Vocabulary. It was assigned on Sunday and it is due on Wednesday. So I'm sorry, it was assigned Friday and it is due on Wednesday. So this is just another quick little access that you can zoom to one of the assignments. If the calendar's overwhelming, just stick with the assignment center. I would say using the calendar is more of a high school skill than I wouldn't necessarily have a lower schooler access the calendar because it can be a lot at once. So I would recommend for high schoolers to utilize the calendar, but not necessarily for lower school. And then junior high, it just depends on your student. There also are student and staff birthdays on here, which are great. And then we also have school events. So there's football games. We've got, you know, the homecoming dance was on there, all that kind of stuff, book fair. So it's a great way just to see the month at a glance. And you can also show by day, by week, and by month. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the homepage here. I want to check my slideshow and make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, I think we hit all the basics. Like I said, there are a few other things that Campus Connect does, but we don't actually utilize that much. And so let me get back to Zachary's. There we go. There's also right here, a profile page. I'm not going to click on Zachary's because it has all of his personal information, but that's where students' email address, phone number, parents' phone number, email address, contact card, all of that is located. So if you are ever in the profile and you notice something is incorrect, just go ahead and reach out to the front office and we'll get that fixed up for you. And then files and forms, you'll see in here, you'll see, you know, where MAP testing scores are or any sort of files and forms that still need to be filled out. And that reminds me about MAP testing. So let me go in here. I'm going to click back to Zachary's previous student file. So I'm on the homepage of Campus Connect, the My Day. This is where you can access MAP scores. So again, for privacy, I'm not going to click on his MAP scores, but you'll see like this is the MAP fall score. There's his SAM. There's MAP and SAM. And so these are constantly updated. And so if you find that something's missing, please let the front office know and we'll get that taken care of for you. But that's great to keep track of previous reports and test scores as well. like I said at the beginning, we're map testing next week, so give it a few weeks for those scores, new scores, to be updated, but they'll be found in the file section. Okay, so much information. I could talk about Campus Connect all day long because, like all the other things, I'm just passionate about it, and I think it's set up really nicely and very user-friendly, with the caveat of it does take practice. So if you haven't been in Campus Connect a lot, I really encourage you to jump in there. I'm going to switch back over to my slideshow, and then I see I have a question in here. If the teacher states Google form where links should be, but it is not a link, will it be in their Google Drive, or does the student have to know where to find that? It's a great question. So 9 times out of 10, if the teacher states Google form, it should be linked in Campus Connect. So it should be clickable. If it is not clickable, I would check Google Drive. That's your first line of defense. And I would also check email. Now, we don't want our students to be going on a wild goose chase to try to find an assignment, of course. So it should be linked in Campus Connect. That's the expectation. But if it's not, checking Google Drive and email are great ways to problem solve. And if you still can't find it, then that would be a time for the student to email the teacher, because it might have just been an oversight where they didn't link where they needed to. That's a great question. I'll take any other questions before I kind of move on. I want to show you, of course, a parent view so that you can see the differences. This slide is my disclaimer slide. We have student views and we have parent views. Okay, so there are individual logins, different access levels. That's just for privacy reasons and how we set up our program. If you are finding that your student is having a hard time navigating Campus Connect, I would really encourage you to ask your students to show you their view, because their view is going to have a lot more detailed information with assignments, due dates, turn-in capabilities, rather than the parent view. Of course, as a parent, you're not given the ability to turn in assignments, but if you work with your student, maybe just sitting next to them while they have their Chromebook open in their Campus Connect, or if they're willing to share their login information with you, then that would be an easy way for you to see their perspective. But as a parent, your view is just a different access level. So I want to show you now a parent perspective here. So we'll go ahead and let me see. Let me stop my share real quick here. Let me see. I can go in here. Let me see if this one will work for us. Profile. Okay. So, is there anyone on the call right now that would be willing for me to go in and show their account? Totally fine if not. I know I'm putting you guys on the spot. My parent that I had lined up, for some reason their account isn't showing up for me right now. Is there anybody who I would be willing just to show their side of the account? I won't show any personal information, of course.
You can look at mine. This is Deirdre.
Thank you, Deidre. You're the best. Appreciate it. All right, so I got my permission. I'm going to go in here. Okay, so now we've got, thank you so much. We've got parent view. So this is the view that you guys have defaulted to. You're going to see the homepage looks different. Obviously, you're not going to have any classes or grades as parents, so it defaults to the news page. Up at the top, you'll see your students. Oh my gosh, forgot to keep sharing. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much. Let's see here, share screen, and I want to do screen number 1. Okay, back up. Here's the home page for parent view. Thank you so much for letting me know that. You'll see your user up in the top right-hand corner, and then the first selection button for Campus Connect is going to be your child's profile. So it defaults to our news feed here. And so I'm just going to go right into Lily's profile, and this is from a parent perspective. As you can see, it looks very similar. I'm going to point out a couple of differences, and I mentioned a few of these already. You're going to see the same things here, grades here, grades look great. You're going to see report cards, student files, attendance, all that kind of stuff. Main difference with the assignments is it looks a little bit different. You do not have on the parent side of things, you do not have those bubbles. So you won't see completed, in progress, or missing or overdue. But once you click into the assignment, you should be able to see the status. So this status right here is graded 10 out of 10 points. Okay. Another difference you're going to see is you do not have access to submit assignments. So there's not going to be a button here that says submit because you're on the parent side of things. So you'll still see everything your student sees. You'll see the assign and the due date. You can still sort by the due date, but in order to see the status, you'll just go in and click. As you can see, this is a great example. Lily turned in her bell work and it tells you when it was submitted. I love this feature, honestly. Everything is time stamped, so it's really helpful for students to understand when exactly they turned it in because it's all time stamped. And then you'll see the grade here and everything on that one is completed. So parent view looks a little bit different. Again, we have two different access levels. Students are going to be able to see all of the details that they need to see. Parents, you still have most of that access, but if your students are really struggling, I would encourage your student to show you their version and their perspective from Campus Connect so that you can see all the details if they're needing a little bit more support. Thank you, Deidre, so much. I'm going to go ahead and log out of you and stop my share for a moment, head back to our slideshow and get our share going again. There we go. All right, so we are not going to go into breakout rooms because we are already here and it's a small group. But what I want you to put on your to-do list is to just make sure that you can log into Campus Connect. That's step number one. And if you can't, you're going to want to email me right away or let me know. And I'll make sure that I send you the specific directions for logging in separately. And then after you're able to log in, the next step is just getting yourself accustomed to using the program, especially if you're new. And we like to develop those positive habits on both a student and a parent perspective. So some of you had mentioned that you check Campus Connect daily, which is amazing. As a parent, we expect that you would check Campus Connect at least weekly to keep an eye on student progress, grades, and assignments, whereas students have the expectation that they would check Campus Connect daily, and that is to keep track of their assignments, their grades, and any other expectations that they need to take care of for their classes. So students, daily expectation, parents, weekly. If you have younger students, that might turn into daily depending on the level of support your student needs. And then I always recommend to parents to access the topics just to spark that conversation with your students. So maybe you notice that in Mr. Dearwester's math class, they're learning new vocabulary. At the dinner table, you could mention that and then, spark a conversation with your student. We all know that if you ask your student, how was your day? They're going to say good or fine. And if you ask them, what did they do? They're probably going to say, I don't know, or nothing, but Campus Connect has a backup for you to know actually what they're doing and to spark conversations around that. Because sometimes it can be hard for our students, especially after a long day, to verbalize what they did. And so Campus Connect can help guide those conversations. This was sent out as part of our EF daily checklist, and I'll send it out again. But these are just some helpful to-dos that students should be doing fairly regularly when it comes to Campus Connect. So checking their grades, verifying their attendance, sorting their assignments, writing their assignments in their planner, that's a big one, and then keeping track of missing assignments. And a huge one that we really encourage our students to do, they may need your help to start, is emailing the teacher after they turn in a missing or a late assignment. Okay. It also says CC your EF coach there. Some of our students have EF coaches and some don't, but that's a great skill to start practicing with your students. If they turn something in late, it's really not a big deal if they're able to notify their teacher and use those self-advocacy tools so that that communication is open and everybody's on the same page. So this will be sent out to you. It's just a nice visual reminder. You can put it on the fridge or keep it just as a reference when you're going through Campus Connect with your students. Thank you so much, guys. I said we would be about 45 minutes and it's already 11, so that wasn't very accurate, but thank you so much for staying the course with us. Like I said, all of this recording, all of the resources, and a ton of different tutorials will be sent out to you as a wrap up to this training. And please save the date for, it'll be Wednesday, November 30th. And we'll be talking all about our PBIS program and our SEL program here at New Way. And that'll be on Zoom at 10 a.m. As always, please reach out with any questions at all. We had a small group today, but I really appreciate you guys coming and staying the course with us for Campus Connect. Once you get off the call and digest things, please do not hesitate to reach out with any sort of questions. I will try my best to answer them, and if I cannot, I will reach out to our tech director and he will be able to answer them, no problem at all. Any last minute questions you can throw into the chat. If not, I will see you guys on November 30th. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
guys. All right. Bye, Deidre. Thank you.
Bye.